Hey guys, welcome back to BA Creative. I know it's been a hot minute since I put up a video, but this one took me a while to edit. It was a little tedious. Today we are going to be recreating one of the Tim Holtz 12 tags of 2012. Damn, that was a lot of alliteration. His November tag using only stuff that we have already. That is to say, I didn't go out and buy all of the missing ingredients for this art recipe. I decided that instead of doing that, I was just going to use what I had, try to be creative, and figure out the best way to replicate his beautiful tag. So what I have for you is the supplies list. And I'm going through and I'm just marking off the things that I have and I don't and what I'm substituting. So for example, crushed olive, I didn't even have that. So, oh well. The distressed stains, I don't have again in crushed olive, so I'm not going to be using that. But the ones that I have a little check mark by, like wild honey. I don't have scattered straw, so we're going to be using antique linen in the spray stain. And some of these I found I didn't even really use. Like the fired brick, I think I used rusty hinge mostly. I don't even think I used the fired brick. Nor did I use the black soot, come to think of it. But I have it. I do have brushed corduroy. That is my absolute favorite color. Yeah, let's just get that out of the way. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. I did not have jet black archival ink, so I'm going to be using StazOn. The Distress Embossing ink, of course, because this is from Tim Holtz, he's Marketing Ranger. I have Versamark, and I have Wow embossing powder, which I'm going to use. I did have some of the glossy accents that, again, I didn't even wind up using that. I don't know why. I have the mister. Of course, I have some ink blending tools. If you don't, you could use some of those little makeup sponges from Target, or hell, I even use my finger. I have my heat tool, which was super grody. You could see that. My craft sheet, I use the Tonic Media Matte from Tim Holtz, and as you can see, I'm pretty hard on it. We do have some number 8 manila tags. You can definitely cut those yourself. You don't need to buy those. I was just being extra. I did not have either one of the stamp sets that he uses two, and one is for the sentiment, which is thankful, and the other one is for some background texture. So since I had neither, I decided that I was going to make the stamps in a collage way using the Tim Holtz foam stamp sets that I did have. They're super cute. I really like the font, and I really wish I used those more. I need to pull those out. To substitute his next stamp set, I am planning on using some acrylic paint and a credit card, because that grid blocks literally just makes grid blocks. So I'm like, I'm just going to use a credit card and some acrylic paint and give the artistic representation of grid blocks. At that particular moment, I was thinking I was going to use that, but I decided later that was a bad idea. The next thing on the list is craft core. I don't know what that is, and I don't have it, so nope. Autumn gathering dye, don't have that either, and I didn't really have anything that could be like a really good substitute, so I just decided not to use it. I randomly did have a wire pen that I didn't even wind up using. Crinkle ribbon, sorta. I have some Sorry ribbon that I ordered off eBay like a year ago that I've been using. I don't use a lot of ribbon with my tags, but hey, this one worked. He calls for some paper string. I have some random string that I think is made from paper. Don't have a jump ring, so I'm not going to use that. He also adds some of his Muse tokens. I don't use a lot of those. I have some, so we're going to see. Tiny attacher, nope, don't have that either. The sanding grip, I don't remember what that was for, but I'm going to use glue. Oh, I'm using the glue for the tiny attacher. The sanding grip and the paper distressor, don't have either one of those. Originally intended to use a nail file, but don't have that either, as you can see from my nails. So I decided to go with sandpaper, nor do I have a craft iron. So that's an extra nope on that. And we're going to be skipping some steps because I don't have a craft iron. And honestly, even if I did, I don't know that I would have done those steps anyway. So step number one, and you can see I'm trying to be like all professional so you guys can follow along at home. Step number one was ink wet silhouette stamp with clear embossing ink and stamp on tag. So I'm actually reading to you from his blog, and I'll put a link to that in the description below so that you can see what the tag is supposed to look like and follow along at home if you'd like. I didn't have the autumn silhouette stamp set that he used, so I went through my stash and I found something that was kind of similar. I think those are those little poof balls. What are those called? Daffodils? No, that's the yellow one. What are those called? They're horrible. They make me sneeze. I don't even know why I have those. I don't know, but that's what I used. And I'm going to go ahead and emboss that on a blank card. Now, if your embossing ink is clean and not dirty, you will just see a fairly clear outline of the embossing ink. And sometimes you can use that as a watermark. You can just let that dry and then use it as a resist. And that's exactly what this step is. The embossing powder, if you use clear, creates a resist. I cut out all that drying for you. I'm getting better with that. And I'm also going to skip ahead to embossing the second one, the second little pollen delivery system stamp that I have. Because if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But this is actually a resist technique. You can do this with acrylic paint. If you don't have embossing powder, you can, or actually you could use Mod Podge too, some type of glue if you wanted to do it through a stencil, or acrylic paint through a stencil, anything like that. It will act as a resist if you're using inks over top of it. And if some gets on top, you just clean it off. So that was steps 1 through 3. Step 4 is to go ahead and stamp in the sentiment. Now, like I said, I didn't have the stamp that he used for this, so I'm going to make a little piece of collage paper with those Tim Holtz foam stampy things. And I did this super early, and I'm glad that I followed the steps with this because this is going over a lot of ink, a lot of medium, and you guys see how much glue I used, so I needed this to dry. I had lost my little stamping tool. It was actually right in front of me, but that's what that was. So I'm just going to stamp that on some of the Tim Holtz clear tissue paper for collage. I really like that. I like the texture and how it works. So you can see the clear embossing is kind of coming through, and we finished steps 4 through 6. Step 7 is, step 8. Step 8 is mist tag with water mister covering entirely with a light layer. So that's what I'm going to do. If you don't have a water mister, just use your hand. I mean, there's no reason why you can't. Or just use, you can dribble the water on. You can do whatever. Then we're going to start covering steps 9 and 10, 11 and 12. We're going to start covering all that with Distress Spray Stain. I did not use near amount the colors that he did. I don't know why. I think it's because I probably didn't have a lot of the stains and the colors that he used. So I just started using the colors that I really like. Now here, I'm going like completely off the page. I'm just doing what I want. Because I didn't have a lot of the really vibrant distress ink colors that he used, I decided to go back in with some ink and go over the edges. And I'm using a mixture of distress ink and distress oxides. I think after working with his inks for so long now, probably close to 2 years. Oh, I hope nobody gets motion sickness. God, that was horrible. I have to get my husband to fix that. I prefer the distress inks, I think, over the oxides. The oxides have their place. They're really pretty, and they have this beautiful, milky, chalky look, hence the name, oxide. And I love the watery distress look you can get when you use the distress oxides with water. But from my own art style, I think I really prefer the distress inks. I like super bright pigmented colors. We are skipping step 12 to 16, and if you're following along on his blog, that's when he actually takes an iron and goes back over the whole tag. And it's done, I think, to dry out everything and to enhance the embossing. Like, it makes it super melty and makes the embossment look even more embossed. Let's see how many times I'm going to say embossed this video. But I don't have a craft iron, and even if I did, I probably would not have done that. I don't have time for that. So we just skipped steps 12 through 16, and now we're working on step 17, which is creating a warm brown shadow around the entire tag with an ink tool, and distress ink will really make the colors of the tag come to life. Yes, Tim, you are correct. That's exactly what happens. And you can see I'm going around the tag with the brush corduroy again, which I absolutely love. Oh man, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for reading this off. I'm going to stop reading verbatim. Mea culpa. I apologize right now if that was wrong. And I'm just going to start paraphrasing the steps. Again, you can go to his blog and read the steps directly if you'd like to, if you don't like my future paraphrasing. Steps 18 and 19. So we're going to wet the tag. That's what this paraphrasing says. You can see I actually added a little bit too much water and didn't like how that top corner looked, so I just added some more. Just do that. If you don't like what it looks like, just go back over and add some more. I really wish that color in the bottom was better now that I'm looking at it. It's faded a little bit since I did this tag. I wish I had added a little bit more. So maybe if you're doing this yourself, you can add like a really big pop of color, especially if it's going to fade a little bit. Step 20, we are sanding the edges, and I'm using a piece of sandpaper because I don't have those distressing tools. It's okay. Results are mixed. I'm not really sure exactly what it was supposed to look like, maybe more distressed, but I like how it kind of pilled up on the edges a little bit, and you can kind of see that. That completes step 20. Now we're going to step 21. And this is where we're supposed to be using his grid mark stamp, but we're not. We're going to make our own. Oh, and I had the foresight to go ahead and collage in my thankful sentiment. I was so happy that that fit because it did not occur to me to measure that before I stamped it. When I was stamping it, I remember thinking this may not fit, and then I was like, F it, I'm just going to do it anyway, and if it doesn't fit, I'll make it. So it fit, and I didn't have to force anything. That's always great in crafting. I hate having to force things in crafting. I am going to go back over that edge just to add a little bit more of that brush corduroy so you can see it more since I covered it up with the collage. And now we're going to make the grid marks. His stamp sets are beautiful. I love them. I want all of them. I just don't have them because they're expensive and I'm a poor college student. I'm in grad school, and if anyone has ever had to buy a textbook, that's basically my entire crafting budget for the year for one textbook. So we use what we got. And all I did was put down some Dina Wakley Night heavy body acrylic paint and some Liquitex Gold. And I'm using the edge of a credit card to just make some marks, really. And I use this technique a lot, actually. I like it when I'm painting and things like that because you can get really crazy with it and do a lot of really, really fun colors and create a lot of really cool effects. So step 22 and 23, we're supposed to be altering his crinkle ribbon and his paper thread. He suggested unwinding the paper thread, of which I tried to do, got incredibly frustrated, and had to cut out 5 minutes of me fooling with that thread because I didn't think anyone wanted to see me get angry or see me use my coping skills so that I didn't lose my shit. God, I need to clean my craft mat. Oh, it's horrible. Please don't judge me because my craft mat is dirty. So anyway, we dyed those things and now we're just letting them dry off to the side. This part was tricky because in the original tag he uses like some wheat, I think that's what the dye is, and it's really pretty, and I think that's why he uses a little hook thing. So I wanted to do something with texture. I used a Dina Wakley Scribbly Birds stamp and had originally cut that out, run it through an embossing folder, and then tried to paint over top of it. Because I did this with craft paper, it looked like crap. And I just didn't want to leave in 10 minutes of me fooling with that. So this was my alternative. This was my plan B. I decided that it needed to be a little bit brighter, and it just reinforced my decision why I don't do a lot of things with craft paper. It's not that I don't like brown. I like brown. I like the right shade of brown, but craft paper is this weird shade of brown that I don't think most colors look really good on. So when I do use it, it's typically just done to, if I'm like leaning whatever it is, craft brown. But in this instance, I glued some book paper down over top of the craft paper because I am going to run it back through the embossing, back through the die cutter with the embossing folder to give it some texture. And the paper itself was not going to be sturdy enough. So that's why I used the craft paper, and I'm glad that I used it. So I'm using up my stash. So as you can see, because my fingers are dirty, now the bird is dirty, and it's not that really nice pretty white that I had hoped it would be. But oh well, we're going to keep going. So in the original tag, Tim uses a piece of burlap. I believe we're on step 29. I stopped writing at some point. And puts it underneath the autumn wheat embossed image that he has. This is a piece of burlap ribbon that I got, and I'm basically following his directions now verbatim. So he's going to use a tiny attacher, which apparently, per the blog, appears to be a very small paper clip, or not paper clip, excuse me, a very small stapler. Oh, tiny attacher, small stapler. Huh, clever Tim, this guy. I don't have that, so I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, which is the most expensive glue in the whole world, but it is amazing. It has acetone in it to help it dry fairly quickly. So be really sure where you want to put that down at, because you don't get any mulligans when you use Fabri-Tac. But it is super strong. Like, that stuff's not going anywhere. I use it mostly when I'm doing bookbinding and things like that. Now we're going to go on to adding the little ribbons at the top. I skipped over the last couple of steps because I didn't add any of the embellishments, so that's why I didn't use the glossy accents, the mousse token, or the little attacher thingy. If I had used embellishments, I would have done that. As you can see, this is where I broke my sewing machine. I did not know that you could not run that through, as thick as that was, and it broke. It still broke. My mom's coming down for Thanksgiving, and I'm going to ask her to fix it. She doesn't know that yet. But it didn't break until I was done, and it looks really nice. I think I like it. I like how it turned out. It's a beautiful tag. So, hope you guys will follow along on Tim's blog. Use what you have and make a wonderful tag to celebrate this Thanksgiving season. See you next time.